Dear students, we already completed the last chapter, that is pollution. But today I am going to discuss three important topics of the chapters. One is about ozone hole, secondly about global warming, and thirdly about eutrophication. Okay, let's listen. CFC. What is the full form of CFC? Chlorofluorocarbon. Okay. The CFC, which are used in refrigerator, air conditioner and aerosol sprays, but now it is banned. This CFC actually emits chlorine radical, which reacts with ozone layer of the atmosphere, and finally when it reacts with ozone, it forms oxygen and it creates a hole that is known as ozone hole. But what happens if it forms ozone hole? Actually, ozone layer is very protective for us. This ozone layer protects us from harmful UV rays of the sun. Okay, but now if it's occur ozone hole, then UV rays do not be absorbed in ozone layer, and then it come towards us and it can causes skin cancer, it can affect in the crop production. Okay, so this ozone hole is very harmful for us, and the main ingredient that is responsible for ozone hole formation, that is chlorofluorocarbon. Okay, now I am going to discuss about the greenhouse effect. You all know the sun's rays warm the earth's surface. Okay, and a part of the radiation that falls on the earth is absorbed by, and a part is reflected back into space. A part of the reflected radiation is trapped by the atmosphere, and it is trapped by some gases like CO2, water vapor, methane, CFC. Okay, and these are the greenhouse gases. The trapped radiation further warm the earth. Okay, in the similarities with greenhouse that is formed in a nursery, it is known as greenhouse effect. Okay, so the trapped heat warms the greenhouse. The trapping of radiations by the earth atmosphere is similar to that in occur in the nursery. That is why it is called the greenhouse effect. Remember that without this process, life would not have been possible on the earth, but now it threatens our life. Greenhouse effect is essential for our life, okay, but when the excess greenhouse gases present, it leads to global warming. It's gradually increase our earth temperature. Okay, excess of CO2 in the air is one of the gases responsible for this effect. You know that CO2 is the one of the component of air, but you know CO2 is responsible for photosynthesis. But if there is excess of carbon dioxide in air, it acts as a pollutant. Okay, so due to presence of excess greenhouse gases, it occurs global warming, which is a serious threat to us. Okay, due to the gradual increase of earth temperature, it leads to the rising of sea level. It affects on rainfall patterns. It affects on agricultural field. It is responsible for the climate changing. Okay, So we must aware of the major component which is responsible for greenhouse effect is CO2. Okay, and CO2 is continuously being released because of human activities. On the other hand, area under forests is decreasing. Plants utilize carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for photosynthesis, thereby decreasing the amount of CO2 in the air. This deforestation leads to an increase in the amount of CO2 in the air because the number of trees which consume CO2 is reduced. But by human activities, we always contribute carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay. And finally, this CO2 traps heat and does not allow it to escape into space. As a result, the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere is gradually increasing, and this is called global warming. Okay. Lastly, we discuss about the one important topic, that is eutrophication. We all know about water pollution, but one important topic of this water pollution is eutrophication. We already know that nowadays the uses of pesticide, weedicides are increases for the protection of crops. Nowadays there is an increase in the use of chemical fertilizer in crop production. But all of these chemical fertilizers, when dissolved in water and are washed into water bodies from the field, they pollute the nearer water bodies, and when they seep into the ground, when they percolate into the ground, they can also pollute groundwater. But what happens when these nitrogen, phosphate, nitrates, phosphates are increased in water bodies? It causes algal bloom. From a great distance, it looks a green covering. Okay, and this is caused by excessive quantities of chemicals which get washed from the fields, and these act as nutrients for algae to flourish, and this is known as algal bloom. This is known as algal bloom. But when the algae die, they serve as a food for decomposer like bacteria, and for this decomposition a lot of oxygen is needed, and this lot of oxygen is supplied by the dissolved water. As a result, the amount of dissolved water is decreased in these water bodies. Okay, and this harm, even they kill the aquatic organism, they harm for the aquatic animals, aquatic plants, etc. And this situation is known as eutrophication. Okay, so excess fertilizers, excess nitrates, phosphates, when come towards water bodies, it causes algal bloom, and after algal bloom, when decomposition of died algae occur, it used a lot of oxygen from the dissolved oxygen, and as a result of it, some desired fish may kill, and it also harmful for aquatic plants and aquatic animals both. And this situation is known as eutrophication. Okay.